On this video, I will show you how to create the perfect rum baba. Done badly, this can be dry or stodgy, but done just right, this can be one of the true greats of classical French cuisine. So I want to show you that rum can be used for more than just mojitos and pina coladas. But I want to give a shout out to Shakes969, who's requested that I share my recipe for rum baba. Traditionally invented in Russia, this dessert was adopted into French cuisine and made famous by the famous chef Savarin. If you've had a bad rum baba, you know that it can be dry or it can be soggy. So we need to find that middle ground where it's soaked beautifully in the middle and it's got a beautiful, inviting, soft texture. I'm going to show you how to do that, so let's get into the recipe.
So we're going to make the babado first before proving and baking, followed by the soaking syrup to soak the baba in. Then we're going to make a vanilla whipped cream, and finally we're going to plate the dessert. So we'll take 1 teaspoon or 3 grams of instant yeast, mixed together with 10 grams of room temperature milk. To a mixing bowl we'll add 240 grams of plain flour, half a teaspoon or 3 grams of salt, 12 grams of honey, then 84 grams of room temperature soft butter, and then we'll add the yeast mixed with the milk back into the bowl. Place this all together onto a stand mixer fitted with the kneading attachment. Start this mixing on a slow speed, and then we'll take 300 grams of whole eggs, whisk it together, and we're going to start adding it slowly, a little bit at a time, incorporating each amount of egg before adding the next addition. You can turn the mixing speed up so it's a medium-high speed, just to really incorporate all of that egg. A little bit at a time, and then after a bit, we're going to stop the mixer, scrape down the sides, just to make sure that everything is evenly incorporated into the mix before adding the last bit of egg. Once that's all mixed, we're going to place it on a high speed for 10 to 15 minutes to develop the gluten in this dough. And you can see here, it's now a really smooth, elastic, stretchy dough, but it's not quite there yet. You can see it just tearing here as I stretch it out. So I need to give this another 5 minutes, again on a nice medium-high speed. So this is the most important step in the whole recipe. To develop the gluten so it's beautiful and stretchy, so it's going to be able to soak up all that nice liquid without crumbling and going to mush. So as you can see, the dough is now stretchy and elastic. So here I'm going to perform something called the window test. That's when we take a small piece of dough in our fingers, we stretch it out, and if it's ready, we should be able to see light penetrating through the dough, hence the name of window test. So we can stop the mixer there. Mine had about 20 minutes in total, but it will depend on the mixer and the speed of the mixer. But once you're happy that you have developed fully that gluten in your dough, remove it into a bowl, cling film it, and we're going to leave that aside for 30 minutes in a warm place to prove. While this is proving, I'm going to apply some soft butter to this metal muffin tray. Now an actual rum baba mould is easily available online. You can get the silicone moulds or the metal moulds, which are the best, but I'm going to use this muffin tray simply because it's what most people have at home, and this is still a great option. Once the mould is buttered, I'm going to dust it lightly with flour, tip that upside down and knock out any excess flour. Then we're going to take a clean tea towel or cloth and wipe the top of the mould a couple of times just to remove any of the excess flour and butter. And now we're ready to go. So because baba dough is very, very soft, it requires a special shaping technique, so I'm going to show you that now. With clean hands, we take some of the dough into our hand, we squash it up through our finger and thumb, and it forms these lovely little rounds of dough which we can then place into the mould. Just takes a little bit of practice, but it's a great technique to handle this really soft dough. Halfway full in these moulds is maximum, because it is going to expand a lot, and try and make sure that each portion of dough is roughly the same size. When you have portion of dough, these need to prove in a warm place. By warm, I mean 24 to 26 degrees ideally, and it wants to be in a place without a draft. Now what I do is I just place it into a very large plastic container with a lid on, and that prevents a skin forming on top of the dough. If you haven't got one of these, no problem at all, just needs to be in a place without a draft. Now we want it to prove for around 2 hours until it's doubled in size. This could take longer if the room isn't very warm, but you can see that the dough is doubled in size. I had a little bit of spare dough and I put them in these larger moulds as well, which worked a treat too. And these are now going to go into a preheated fan assisted oven at 190 degrees centigrade, which is 374 degrees Fahrenheit, until they're nicely golden brown. If you want to double check, you can insert a skewer into the centre of the baba to make sure there's no raw dough on the inside. So when they come out of the oven and they're beautifully golden brown, we need to remove these pretty quickly from the mould. I'm using my fingers here because I'm a chef with pretty heat resistant hands, but please be very careful. You can just turn the mould upside down and tip the babas out. And we're going to leave those on a cooling rack. You can see here the larger babas came out fantastic as well. Okay, I'm going to flip those upside down so the presentation side is facing up, and we're going to let those cool to room temperature. Now if you want to, and some people even recommend this, you can actually leave these overnight. Some people think that a slightly stale baba absorbs more liquid, but for me there's not a massive difference, and you can soak these within a couple of hours, or you can soak it the next day. So for that soaking syrup, we're going to take 400 grams of caster sugar, 800 grams of water. Please use mineral water here if your tap water is not great. Place these together in a pan, and then we're going to add the zest of 1 orange and also the zest of 1 lemon. Place this onto a high heat, give it a really good stir, and we're going to bring that to the boil. When the mixture reaches the boil, let it simmer for 1 minute, just to let those flavours really infuse into the mixture. Switch the heat off. Pass that mixture through a fine sieve to remove the little bits of zest. And our Baba syrup is ready to go. We just need to let that cool down to about 50 degrees. Now of course we move on to the rum. Now I'm not going to lie, this is not the highest quality rum, but the better the rum, the better the Rum Baba. So hopefully you've got something nice in your drinks cabinet that you could use. So we're going to weigh out 50 grams of this rum. And once the sugar syrup has cooled to around 50 degrees, we're going to add that into the syrup. Stir it well, and when we plate this dessert we're going to pour more rum over those babas, which you'll see later. So we have a baking tray with a cooling rack set over it to drain the babas. I just want to show you the crumb of this Babado. Now as you can see, it's got this lovely honeycomb texture, and it's got the flexibility that comes with that well developed gluten. And as we add the babas into the hot liquid, it's going to mean that the baba will be able to take up all of that liquid, but without turning into mush. If the liquid is too hot, it will also mean that the baba will fall apart, so it's very important to have it at the correct temperature. And we're going to press these babas down, and you can see the little air bubbles rising to the surface. That's exactly what you want to see. So the babas are actually taking on all of that liquid. Now as we press these down, flip them over, press them down again, it should take around 2 minutes to get this baba fully soaked. The baba should feel heavy when you pick it up, that it's completely filled with that liquid, and when you're happy that it has reached this stage, you can remove them from the liquid, place them onto the cooling rack, reheat that soaking syrup back up to around 50 degrees and place in the next batch of babas. Repeat until all of the babas are completely soaked. Here are the larger babas that I've made. They work equally well. It's exactly the same process. Now if I break one of these babas in half, you can see now that it's beautifully moist all the way through the centre, plenty of syrup inside that baba dough. Finally we take that same hot liquid and we just spoon it over the top of the babas to give it that final soaking. These are really going to taste sensational. As you can see, I'm just being very thorough to make sure that these are fully soaked. To give these babas an extra incredible shine and gloss and flavour, we're going to coat these with a beautiful shiny glaze. Very simply, take 150 grams of lime marmalade. You could use apricot jam or just regular orange marmalade. Microwave it with 10% water, so in this case 15 grams of water. I've heated that into the microwave until it's very, very hot, and then you just want to paint this glaze onto the baba until it's got this beautiful shine. They look really highly finished now and beautiful, and they're ready to go. So we're going to make our vanilla whipped cream now. Very simply, take 250 grams of whipping cream, 40 grams of icing sugar which has been sieved, whip these up to very soft peaks, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then whip them until they're just holding their shape. You really want this cream very, very soft indeed. You also want to whip this just before you're ready to eat the baba. So this is my favourite stage of any dessert, the plating. So we're going to take our beautiful Rum Baba and add 1 spoon of that lovely soft vanilla whipped cream. And then I've got some lovely fresh berries here, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, whatever you have. Add those nicely to the plate, a little sprig of mint. So then we take a couple of teaspoons of extra rum of your choice and spoon it nicely over that baba to give it that really strong rum flavour. You could also cut this in half before spooning over that rum. But there we have it, a classic, traditional, incredibly delicious Rum Baba. Enjoy!
Doesn't that look delicious, guys? I've got to say, so far this is my favourite dessert recipe on this channel. If you've got a dessert you'd like me to show you how to make, please let me know in the comments below. While you're here, why don't you give me a like and a subscribe to the channel for more amazing recipes. Thanks for watching, have a brilliant week, and I'll see you next week for more recipes on Steph the Pastry Chef.